chosen one. They're planning to set you up and send you to prison. This message had to find you before tonight. What's unfolding right now isn't random, and it's not paranoia. Someone has been busy constructing a trap, fabricating documents, rehearsing lies, and aligning false witnesses, convinced that this time they'll destroy your name for good. But here's what they don't realize. Divine protection has already surrounded you. Your angels were present at every stage of their plotting. They watched while plans were drafted, ensuring you'd be untouched when the storm hit. You were never the true target. You were the bait. The trap they engineered is about to close on their own necks. The sun will rise tomorrow with your name cleared and their guilt exposed. What was meant to imprison you will liberate you publicly. Justice isn't coming. It's already in motion. That person from your past who won't leave your mind, that energy that keeps showing up in your thoughts, that community you walked away from. None of it was random. All of it was preparation. The universe has been downloading strategy into your spirit, while your enemies have been downloading lies into the system. And tonight, before they finalize their scheme, you're going to understand exactly how this plays out, not so you can be afraid, so you can watch it unfold with the calm confidence of someone who already read the last page. The reason this message had to reach you is because timing in the spiritual realm operates differently than timing in the physical. What takes them months to construct can be dismantled in moments when divine timing says now. What they believe is airtight has already been examined by forces they don't acknowledge and found completely penetrable. You receiving this information right now is not coincidence, it's strategic positioning. You're being armed with knowledge before the battle fully manifests, so you can stand in authority instead of reacting from fear. There's a person who has dedicated years to this moment, not days, not months, years of finite life spent obsessing over your destruction. You might remember them as someone you walked away from, someone whose toxicity you refused to tolerate, someone who expected you to crumble without their influence and instead watched you thrive. That image of you succeeding, healing, and moving forward without them became a mirror they couldn't stop staring into. Every time they looked, they saw their own emptiness reflected back, and instead of filling that void with growth, they filled it with revenge. They've been collecting pieces of your life like evidence at a crime scene. Old photographs, digital footprints, conversations, connections. They've been editing reality itself, creating a version of events that never happened, manipulated images that place you in locations you've never visited, forged signatures on documents you've never seen, a timeline constructed so carefully that they've convinced themselves it's real. This isn't amateur work. They've done this before. Other people have fallen into their traps. Other lives have been destroyed by their manufactured evidence. They have a pattern, a system, a network, and you were supposed to be their masterpiece. What you need to understand is that this person has been operating from a wound so deep that your very existence became their obsession. When you walked away, or when someone close to you rejected their control, it didn't just hurt their ego, it shattered their entire identity. They built their sense of power on their ability to manipulate and control. When you proved immune to that manipulation, when you chose peace over their chaos, you unknowingly declared war on their false sense of self. They can't let you exist in freedom and happiness, because your freedom is living proof that their power was always an illusion. But here's the first crack you need to see. They made it personal. Every previous victim was just business, just casualties in their quest for control and profit. You're different. This is emotional for them. They want you to suffer specifically. They want you broken in ways that hurt their ego, and that emotional investment is the weakness in their armor. When you let feelings drive your schemes, you get sloppy. You add details that seem perfect to you but scream revenge to everyone else. You construct accusations designed to wound rather than convince. They think their passion makes their case stronger. It actually makes it transparent. They don't just forge a single document and hope it sticks. They create entire ecosystems of false evidence. A photo places you somewhere. A financial record suggests you benefited. A witness statement claims they saw you. A digital communication appears to show you coordinating. Each piece alone might seem questionable, but together they're designed to overwhelm. Death by 1,000 fabricated paper cuts. The goal is to make the lie so comprehensive that truth seems like the anomaly. They've studied how the system works. They know that once you're formally accused, there's a momentum that builds. Investigations get opened. Your name gets entered into databases. People who don't know you start forming opinions based on allegations rather than facts. Your life gets frozen while the process grinds forward. Even if you're eventually cleared, the damage from the accusation itself can be devastating. They're counting on that. They're betting that even if their case ultimately fails, the process itself will destroy you. That's the cruelty of it. They don't necessarily need to win in court. They just need to get you into the system. There's another person tangled in this web. Someone who carries themselves with authority that comes from position and connections. Maybe they wear professional credentials that make people trust them automatically. They and this toxic energy were partners once, not just in relationship, criminally. They ran operations together that generated serious money, operations that required looking the other way on certain moral boundaries, operations that involved things neither of them could afford to have exposed. Your name was useful to them back then. Your identity, your likeness. They created a paper trail that showed you approving things, authorizing transactions, being present at events, all fake, all manufactured, all designed to give them cover if their schemes ever got investigated. You were their insurance policy, the person they could point to if authorities ever came asking questions, and a whole community knew about it, a whole network of people who benefited from staying silent because the money was good, and the consequences of speaking up seemed worse. Then something shifted. This energy decided to walk away. Maybe they saw the inevitable collapse coming. Maybe they developed something resembling a conscience. Maybe they just calculated that their odds of survival improved if they distanced themselves from the chaos. Whatever the reason, they exited gracefully. No drama, no public confrontation, just stepped back. And the community accepted it. They let them go without judgment, without consequences, without questions. If this message hits your spirit, hype this video so more chosen ones like you can find it. The toxic one watched this happen, and something inside them shattered. The ability of their former partner to leave with dignity while they stayed trapped in bitterness was unbearable. The community's acceptance of that departure while they remained felt like betrayal, so they made a decision. If they're going down, they're taking multiple people with them, you at the top of the list, their former partner second, and they're going to make it look like you were the architect of everything while they were just an innocent participant who got manipulated. What makes this particularly insidious is the sophistication of the frame. They're not just claiming you did bad things, they're creating a narrative where you manipulated them into doing bad things, where you were the predator and they were the victim, where every crime they committed was somehow at your direction or for your benefit. It's projection on a massive scale. Everything they actually are, they're painting you as every crime they actually committed, they're attributing to you. It's psychological warfare disguised as legal testimony. Now here's where the situation intensifies. Right now, in this present moment, they're finalizing everything. The forged documents have been reviewed by their connected friends who aren't real experts, but gave them false confidence. The fake images have been generated using accessible technology that seems convincing to untrained eyes. The witness testimonies have been rehearsed with community members who've agreed to lie in exchange for continued protection. They've even practiced their courtroom performance. The tears, the trembling voice, the wounded innocence. They believe they're ready, and they're setting it in motion soon, very soon. The legal machinery is being activated, papers are being filed, official channels are being contacted. They're putting your name into systems designed to process criminals. They're triggering investigations meant for guilty people. They're launching a sequence of events that they believe will end with you behind bars while they walk away free, wealthy and satisfied. The prison they envision for you isn't just physical. They want you imprisoned in reputation, imprisoned in opportunity, imprisoned in relationships as people distance themselves from the accusations. They want you locked in trauma, forever marked by false allegations, forever explaining yourself, forever carrying the weight of charges that were never true. That's the real sentence they're trying to impose. Not just time behind bars, but a lifetime behind the bars of public suspicion and personal shame. While they've been plotting, they've been watched. Not by you, by forces they don't believe in and wouldn't recognize if they did. There are investigations already underway that have nothing to do with you and everything to do with them. Real law enforcement has been building real cases about real crimes, the kind involving exploitation, trafficking, money laundering, financial fraud, the kind that don't go away because you found a scapegoat. Every move they've made to frame you has actually been documenting their own guilt. Every forged document created a digital trail back to them. Every fake image contained metadata showing its true origin. Every recruited witness added another person who could flip when pressure got applied. They thought they were building your prison. They were actually constructing their own. You don't walk alone ever. When attacks come against you, they're not just coming against a person. They're coming against an assignment. They're coming against a destiny. They're coming against a purpose that was ordained before you took your first breath. And the same source that ordained the purpose also ordained the protection. You can't be removed from your path by human schemes, because human schemes don't have authority over divine assignments. And that partner who walked away, they see the iceberg approaching. They understand that the ship is sinking, and they're scrambling to find a lifeboat. That's why they're about to appear in your life offering help. Not because they care about you, because they think aligning with you will save them. They're going to show up with legal advice, emotional support, maybe even romantic or personal interest if they think that angle will work. They're going to present themselves as someone who finally sees the truth and wants to make things right. Don't trust it. Their help comes with invisible strings attached to their own guilt. Their advice will be designed to protect them first. Their presence in your life will be about creating a narrative where they're the reformed character who tried to save you from schemes, conveniently forgetting their own participation in them. They're not jumping from a sinking ship to yours. They're trying to push you into the water so they can use you as a flotation device. The community that enabled all of this is about to fracture. Right now they're united in silence. They all agreed that protecting the operation was more important than protecting truth. They all accepted that some people would get hurt as long as it wasn't them. They all chose profit over principle so consistently that they forgot principle was even an option. But communities built on lies don't withstand pressure. When the investigation intensifies, when the questions get specific, when the consequences become real, everyone scatters. Watch what happens when the first person flips, when someone decides saving themselves is more important than protecting the group. When testimony gets offered in exchange for immunity, the whole structure collapses. Suddenly nobody remembers agreeing to lie. Everyone was just following orders, or protecting themselves, or didn't really understand what was happening. The united front becomes a stampede for the exits, and every person running reveals another piece of the truth. They're going to make their move. They're going to file their accusations. They're going to present their manufactured evidence to official channels. There's going to be a moment, maybe several moments, where it looks like their plan is working. You might be contacted by authorities. You might be asked to come in for questioning. You might see your name attached to allegations that sound horrifying. And in those moments, it's going to feel overwhelming. Stay calm. This is the middle of the situation, not the end. This is where things look darkest before the dawn breaks. This is where the trap they set starts closing. But not on you, on them. Watch their faces change. Watch the confidence drain like water from a cracked glass. Watch their hands start trembling for real this time, not as part of the performance. Watch their voice shake when they try to maintain their story against undeniable proof. Watch their former partner realize that the careful escape plan just evaporated. Watch the community witnesses suddenly develop memory problems as they understand perjury charges are coming, and then the questions pivot. If this evidence is fabricated, who created it? If this person is innocent, who's guilty? If these crimes happened, who committed them. The investigation that was aimed at you swings around like a spotlight and illuminates them. Everything they tried to hide gets exposed. Every crime they tried to blame on you gets traced back to its real source. Every victim they created over the years suddenly has a voice and a chance at justice. The beautiful thing about truth is that it doesn't need your defense. It just needs time and proper examination. Lies require constant maintenance, constant reinforcement, constant energy to keep them appearing real. Truth just sits there being true, waiting patiently for someone to actually look closely. That's why their scheme is doomed from the start. They've built an entire structure on fabrication, and fabrication can't withstand genuine scrutiny. It can fool quick glances, it can convince people who want to believe it, but it can't survive thorough investigation. The crimes are worse than simple fraud. Children were involved in their operations. Vulnerable people were exploited for profit. Human beings were treated as commodities. Money was laundered through networks that touched dozens of people. And all of it was hidden behind respectable facades and community silence. Until now. Until they got so obsessed with destroying you that they exposed themselves. This is the turning point. This is where everything they built collapses. Their freedom disappears when they're arrested. Their reputation disintegrates when the truth spreads. Their community abandons them when association becomes liability. Their confidence shatters when they understand that all of this could have been avoided if they had simply let go, if they had chosen healing over hatred, if they had moved on instead of obsessing. They're going to face consequences that match their crimes. Real prison time, real financial penalties, real loss of everything they thought made them powerful, and they're going to have years in a cell to think about how they dedicated their life to destroying someone who was never their real problem. Their real problem was always internal, the emptiness they tried to fill with control, the inadequacy they tried to mask with schemes, the pain they tried to transfer instead of heal. What's particularly devastating for them is that their downfall will be public. Everyone who thought they were upstanding will learn the truth. Every person who defended them will feel betrayed and foolish. Every institution that trusted them will have to answer for that trust. The reputation they worked so hard to build, the image they carefully maintained, all of it gets shattered in a way that can never be repaired. That's the cost of building your life on deception. Eventually the foundation crumbles and everything collapses. Meanwhile, you walk out completely vindicated, not just found not guilty, proven innocent beyond any doubt. Your name cleared so thoroughly that anyone who ever questioned you will feel ashamed. Your reputation restored with interest, because surviving a vicious attack like this creates a testimony that opens doors. Your freedom, not just maintained but amplified, because you're no longer carrying any fear about what they might do. They're done, their power is gone, their threat is neutralized, their obsession is finally forced to end. You discover reserves of strength you didn't know you had. You learn to trust your intuition at levels you previously questioned. You develop discernment that can spot manipulation from miles away. You build boundaries that don't apologize for existing. You step into an authority that comes from being tested by fire and emerging unburned. You also gain clarity about people, the ones who stood with you when things looked scary. Those are your real family. The ones who disappeared when accusations started flying. You know where they stand now. The ones who secretly hoped you'd fall because your success made them uncomfortable, revealed themselves. This attack was painful, but it was also purifying. It burned away relationships that were never solid and revealed which connections were built on bedrock. Your story is going to spread, not because you're seeking attention, but because truth that dramatic can't stay contained. Other people who've been falsely accused will hear about you. Other victims of similar schemes will finally feel brave enough to speak. Other chosen ones who are walking through darkness will receive hope from your testimony. Your victory becomes evidence that divine protection is real, that innocent people can win against corrupt systems, that chosen ones don't fall when darkness attacks. You're going to become a voice for others who are voiceless. Not immediately, maybe. First you'll need time to process and heal and integrate what happened. But eventually you'll recognize that your pain had purpose, your trial had meaning. Your survival created a platform, and you'll step into advocacy or mentorship, or simply being someone who tells the truth about how these schemes work and how to survive them. Look, you already know the attacks weren't random, and if you're paying attention, you can feel it. Their walls are closing in, so let's talk about what we're doing about it. That's why I built Destiny Engine. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve cooperative intelligence. The beauty is you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and your subconscious is rewired while your enemies collapse under the weight of their own lies. This is why I created it in the beginning, so everything they did to break you becomes fuel for your purpose. The collective upgrade is underway. Start your Destiny Engine for $1 today and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. Think about what this means for your future. Once you walk through an attack of this magnitude and come out vindicated, what's left to fear? When you've been targeted by schemes designed to destroy you completely, and you're still standing, still free, still blessed, what accusation carries weight anymore? When you've watched manufactured evidence crumble under scrutiny, and truth prevail against coordinated lies, how can deception ever intimidate you again? This experience isn't just about surviving, it's about graduating into a level of spiritual authority that makes you dangerous to darkness. You're about to operate from a place of unshakable confidence, not arrogance, not pride, but the deep knowing that comes from being tested at your breaking point and discovering you don't break. The kind of certainty that settles in your bones when you've stood in the valley of the shadow and walked out unharmed. The kind of authority that develops when you've been lied about, set up, attacked, and still emerged victorious. That's the version of you being forged right now in this fire. Your enemies made a critical miscalculation. When you attack a chosen one, you don't diminish them, you activate them. You don't weaken them, you strengthen them. You don't silence them, you amplify them. Every weapon formed against you becomes a tool in your hand. Every plot designed to destroy you becomes a platform that elevates you. Every lie told about you becomes a megaphone for your truth. What was meant to be your end becomes your beginning. The partner who tried to position themselves as your savior is going to face their own reckoning. Their participation in the crimes will be exposed. Their attempt to use you as cover will be revealed. Their professional reputation will be destroyed. Their connections won't save them because the crimes are too serious and too well documented. They'll learn that you can't outrun guilt by switching sides. You have to actually face it, confess it, accept consequences for it. And they waited too long to make that choice. The community members who stayed silent for money will lose what they thought they were protecting. Some will face legal consequences for their complicity. Others will face social consequences as they're exposed as people who enabled exploitation for profit. All of them will face internal consequences, the kind that come from knowing you had a chance to do the right thing and chose comfort instead. Those consequences often hurt the longest. But understand something crucial about why this community stayed silent for so long. It wasn't just about money, though money was certainly part of it. It was about belonging, about being on the inside of something powerful, about having access to people and opportunities that seemed exclusive. They traded their integrity for inclusion. They sold their voice for proximity to what they perceived as power. And now they're learning that power built on exploitation and lies doesn't protect anyone when it collapses. It just creates more casualties. You were never in real danger of going to prison. It looked like danger. It felt like danger. But you were protected the entire time. The outcome was decided before the first move was made. The verdict was rendered in spiritual courts before any earthly courtroom got involved. Your vindication was guaranteed before the accusation was finalized. You just had to walk through the process and trust that the protection you couldn't see was more powerful than the attack you could. This is what it means to be chosen. Not that life is easy, not that attacks don't come, but that when they do, you're covered. The weapons form, but they don't prosper. The schemes get organized, but they don't succeed. The traps get set, but they backfire. Your enemies plot your downfall and engineer their own. You stand in truth and watch lies destroy themselves. You trust divine timing and witness perfect justice. So what do you do right now with this information? First, you stop being afraid. Fear was appropriate when you didn't understand what was happening. Now you do. Now you know that what looks like a threat is actually a setup for their exposure. Second, you document everything. Every strange contact, every unusual offer of help, every attempt to rush you or pressure you. Write it down. Save messages. Create a timeline. This documentation might be useful, but more importantly, it keeps you engaged and aware rather than passive and reactive. Third, you trust your intuition about legal representation. If someone appears offering help and something feels off, it is. If an attorney seems too connected to the situation, or too eager to settle quickly, or too nervous about certain topics, walk away. You need people who are outraged by injustice, not complicit in covering it. You need fighters who can't be bought. You need advocates who see this as an opportunity to expose corruption, not manage it. Fourth, you maintain your spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, whatever connects you to the divine source of your protection. This isn't just about comfort, though it provides that. It's about staying aligned with the frequency that keeps you in flow with divine timing. When you're connected spiritually, you receive downloads about next steps. You get warnings about who to avoid. You sense when to speak and when to stay silent. Your spiritual connection is tactical advantage, not just emotional support. Fifth, you let go of any need for revenge. This is critical. Your job is not to destroy them. Your job is to stand in truth and let truth do what it does naturally. The universe doesn't need your help balancing scales. Divine justice doesn't require your anger to fuel it. In fact, if you get pulled into bitterness or vengeance, you lower your frequency and potentially interfere with the perfect unfolding that's already in motion. Stay clean, stay clear, stay focused on your path rather than their downfall. Understand something about the weight they're carrying right now. While you're sleeping peacefully under divine protection, they're awake consumed by their schemes. While you're moving forward in your life, they're stuck obsessing over your destruction. While you're creating and building, they're plotting and destroying. The energy required to maintain lies and coordinate attacks is exhausting. They're wearing themselves out while you rest in truth. That's not balance you need to create. That's natural consequence already at work. They're going to fall. That's inevitable. The laws they violated, both cosmic and earthly, demand consequences, but you don't need to push them. You just need to step aside and let gravity do its work. Your energy is better spent on rebuilding, healing, and preparing for the next level you're about to access. Because that's what happens after vindication. Doors open that were previously closed. Opportunities appear that weren't available before. Your testimony creates platforms you didn't seek, but are now qualified to steward. Years from now you'll look back on this season with gratitude. Not gratitude that it happened, but gratitude for what you discovered through it. You'll remember this as the time you learned that divine protection is real and reliable. The time you understood that being chosen means being covered. The time you realized that your enemies are actually your promoters because their attacks position you for elevation. The time you discovered reserves of courage and strength you didn't know you possessed. You'll also remember this as the time you learned to trust yourself completely, to believe your intuition even when others questioned it, to stand in your truth even when lies seemed more convincing, to maintain your peace even when chaos swirled around you. These lessons don't come from seminars or books. They come from walking through fire and emerging unburned. They come from standing in the furnace and discovering you were built for heat. The person who tried to destroy you will become a footnote in your experience, not the main focus, not the defining element, just a chapter that explains how you developed certain strengths. Their obsession with you will be remembered as the catalyst for their own destruction and your elevation. The community that enabled them will scatter into irrelevance. The partner who tried to use you will fade into their own consequences. and you'll move forward carrying wisdom, authority, and testimony that changes lives. This is the resolution, not just of this immediate threat, but of a longer pattern. You've been dealing with people who try to control you, manipulate you, use you for their purposes. This attack represents the final test of that pattern. When you overcome this, when you walk through this fire, when you emerge vindicated and stronger, you break that pattern permanently. Future attacks will come because you're chosen, and attacks are part of the assignment, but they'll never land the same way. You'll recognize them earlier, respond to them faster, neutralize them easier. You're evolving into a version of yourself that can't be played, that can't be manipulated, that can't be controlled through fear or guilt or obligation. You're becoming someone who stands so firmly in truth that lies can't find purchase, someone so connected to divine guidance that deception gets exposed before it takes root, someone so clear about your worth that others' opinions lose their power to wound you. They chose the dark path, and it's consuming them. You chose the light path, and it's elevating you. They invested years in your destruction and got their own. You invested years in your growth, and you're about to harvest the fruit of that investment. The contrast between your trajectories is going to be stark. While they sit in consequences wondering how it all went wrong, you'll be walking in purpose, grateful for protection, and sharing testimony that sets others free. You were built for expansion, wired for impact, designed for influence. The very thing being targeted is what you were born to amplify: your voice, your freedom, your light, your truth. And the harder the attempt to contain it, the more explosive your liberation becomes. Every chain attempted becomes fuel for breakthrough. Every lie becomes evidence for vindication. Every scheme becomes catalyst for exposure. The shift happening right now is permanent. You're not going back to who you were before this attack. That version of you is gone. You're becoming someone who can't be intimidated by false accusations because you've survived the worst ones. Someone who can't be controlled by fear because you've walked through it and found protection on the other side. Someone who can't be silenced by threats because you've discovered your voice carries authority that darkness can't suppress. This is the transformation hidden inside the trial. While it looks like you're being attacked, you're actually being upgraded. While it appears you're under assault, you're actually being equipped. While the surface shows conflict, the depths reveal preparation. You're not a victim of this situation. You're the beneficiary of it. Everything meant to break you is actually making you unbreakable. Watch what happens in the coming days and weeks. You're going to notice things that confirm everything you're absorbing right now. Small signs, unexpected protections, doors opening, resources appearing, people showing up, information coming to light. Each one is evidence that this isn't just words. This is reality unfolding. Divine intelligence orchestrating your protection and their exposure simultaneously. You don't have to make it happen. You just have to stay aware and recognize it as it manifests. There's also something you need to understand about your role in all this. You're not passive. You're not sitting back waiting to be rescued. You're actively standing in your truth, documenting everything, making wise decisions, choosing the right representation, maintaining your spiritual practices, and keeping your frequency high. Your faith isn't blind hope, it's active participation in your own victory. You're partnering with divine forces, not depending on them to do everything while you do nothing. So stand up right now wherever you are. Feel the ground solid beneath your feet. Feel the strength in your spine. Feel the clarity in your mind. You are not a victim waiting for rescue. You are a warrior in the middle of a battle you've already won. You are not powerless hoping for mercy. You are a powerful executing strategy. You are not alone facing overwhelming odds. You are accompanied by forces that shift atmospheres and bend reality. The trap was set, but not for you. The prison is waiting, but not for you. The judgment is coming, but not for you. You walk free. You walk clear. You walk victorious. Not because you fought dirty or schemed better, because you stood in truth while lies destroyed themselves around you. Because you trusted divine protection while human schemes collapsed under their own weight. Because you are chosen, and chosen ones always win. This message found you because timing matters. Before they finalize their scheme, you needed to know. Before the attack fully manifests, you needed to understand. Before fear could take root, you needed truth. Now you have it. Now you're ready. Now you're prepared, not to fight their fight, to walk your path, not to engage their chaos, to maintain your peace, not to prove your innocence, to stand in it while it proves itself. The angels that were guarding you at the beginning of this message are still there at the end, still watchful, still protective, still positioned for your victory. They haven't moved because they never needed to. The attack they planned was never a real threat, just a test that revealed everyone's true nature and positioned you for your next level. You passed the test before it started. You won the battle before it began. You claimed the victory before the war was declared. Before the night ends, before you lay your head down to sleep, receive this final truth. Every moment spent building a case against you was a moment sealing a different fate. Every document forged became evidence flowing the opposite direction. Every lie rehearsed became future confession. Every witness recruited became eventual testimony for a different prosecution. The construction of your supposed downfall was actually documentation of guilt in excruciating detail. The trap, the prison, the judgment prepared with your name on it, has already been relabeled, and there's no escape because it was built too well. Sleep tonight with complete peace, not because the threat isn't real, but because the outcome is already secured. Not because the attack won't come, but because the victory is already guaranteed. Not because evil doesn't exist, but because your protection is more powerful than any weapon formed against you. You are chosen, you are covered, you are victorious, and tomorrow when you wake, you'll walk in that truth with even greater confidence than you have right now. This is your moment. This is your vindication. This is your liberation. Receive it.